Classes are one of the foundational aspects of object-oriented programming. And so in this video, I want to talk about understanding classes just from a very simple visual type example, and then we'll actually build some code and let you see what these things really look like in action. All right. First of all, understand that a class is nothing more than a collection of code, a collection of functionalities that has a single name. All right. Now this turns out to be a blueprint, if you will. You'll hear them called contracts. You hear them called all kind of things. A lot of people don't like the contract because that sounds more like something else that we use, and I don't want to get into that right now. But anyway, but think of it, we're going to use this blueprint or this code, and we're going to turn it into an in-memory piece of functionality called an object. All right. So we're going to use classes to create objects to put whatever functionalities we programmed into the class to use. Now, the class usually contains the code that produces the functionality. Now notice, kind of interesting here, that word usually. Okay, so we can build abstract classes. We'll get to that maybe later. It might be outside the course scope, but that's one for you to go chase down if you'd like. So anyway, each object that we create from a class becomes its own unique instance of that class in memory. So based on one class, all right, we're writing a veterinary program and we create a class called dog, and the dog has a name, an age, a weight. We inoculate the dog or we treat it for heartworms or whatever, but we can use that one class to write all the code that we need, and it does all the magic for us, and then we can use that class to create 8 or 10 objects that exist in memory all at the same time, but they each have their own unique existence, okay, their own state, if you will. Now here's something that will confuse you if you're new to this whole object-oriented programming game here, and that is you will hear a class called a type, and you'll be reading out there and they're talking about, you know, well, you'll create a type or you'll use a type. Well, that is true. It's exactly true. But understand that a type is really simply a category of code or a category of functionality that has a name in programming. Any category of functionality is a type. For example, a variable is a type, and we talk about it all the time. It's a type integer. A class is a type. It's a collection or a category of functionality. All right? So don't let that confuse you. Now let's look at a visual that I think will help you understand classes. We open up a coding environment and notice we create a class, okay? And this class is called cat. And inside this, inside the braces on cat, we create an integer variable called age. We create an integer data typed variable called weight. And then we create a function called inoculate, and then inside the braces on that we put some code. All right, now I left out something here. Don't worry about it right now. You'll see it later, but I don't want to make it too complex, but this would have made it not so complex. But notice I've got an opening brace here for the cat. I should have a closing one down here. Don't worry about it, but for those of you nerds who really pick up on stuff, I just wanted to mention that. All right, now using this class cat that I have out there, I can instantiate an object, or I can create an object off of that, and the object's name is Tiger, or I will create an object called Tiger, and then I can set some of the values. Now notice the age that I created in cat becomes now a variable in my object, and Tiger's 3 years old. I can set that. Tiger weighs 8 pounds, and if I call the inoculate function or method, if you will, in there, it's going to run some code. It might be 100 lines. It connects to databases. It does all kind of stuff. Who knows what I'm going to pass into it. And what it returns to me is yes, inoculation was successful. Yes, Tiger has been inoculated. All that kind of stuff. Right now, at the same time that we have instantiated an object off of class called Tiger, and it's alive out there in memory and functioning, we can also instantiate another one called Fluffy. And Fluffy, of course, refers to somebody else's cat. Fluffy, you'll notice here, based on the state of this object, the age has been set to 5, the weight is 3, and Fluffy is not inoculated. Now, I'll show you why when we build our code example, and we'll do that in a separate video. But if you can understand what classes do fundamentally right here, you're a long way down the road to understanding object-oriented programming. Because in a separate video, which will be entitled Defining a Class, and then we'll work with some objects later, you will see in code what this really looks like, and the light will come on for you if you've never seen it. Okay, so anyway, that's just a good basic understanding of classes.